3 here. And how many people were here the last 2 days? All right. Now that means we get the next 2 off, right? No. But we have, it's very good to see this size of a group. And you know what's also good about it? The fact that we just meld together. Yeah, every once in a while, but for most of the time, we just meld together, and we're all about the people who get trained in our organization. And that's the main thing that we have, and that's one of the greatest things we have. And we all get out there and do it with everything we got to make sure of that. So I just wanted to thank you all for coming. And now we'll get into the education side of, and I'm not sure exactly what they're going to be doing today, but it's going to be teaching about how to teach, or how to do that, how to train, and our position in that, and what we do with it. And so when they're instructors, and I've been an instructor 25, 30 years now, and I look out there and I say, okay, every one of these people are looking to me so they can better their lives. And that's what we do. So thank you, and I'm glad to be here, glad to be able to stand here in front of you, and I preach about you every day. I love you, and you're great. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, and yeah, it's nice to have you all here. Some of you may know who I am, some of you may know what I do. So I'm the Director of Government Relations for the IICRC. So my job is to promote the IICRC in front of politicians, in front of policymakers, and in front of regulators if they choose to regulate portions of our industry. And so we work at federal level, state level, the local level, and we do dabble in the international level. I don't know too much about other countries' regulatory processes, but if you do and you're in those states, or those countries, feel free to reach out, and I'm more than happy to help. But I'll just give kind of a background, on what we're kind of working on right now. So, at the federal level, I know everybody's probably aware that there's nothing interesting going on up there. And it's never in the news or anything like that. But, we try to avoid all that, the politics of it, because no matter if you're blue or red, they still want to get things done. And we can find our way into bipartisan things. And so, for instance, there's a bill that's been introduced by both the Democrat and the Republican in Congress for the last couple of years, and it is called the Tomorrow's Workforce Act, Investing in Tomorrow's Workforce Act. Basically what the bill does at the current moment here in the United States, if you have a 529 savings plan, which is a savings plan for college, you can only use those funds for college. This would allow you to use those 529 savings plans funds if you just choose not to go to college for industry certifications. So obviously we are all aware that there is a workforce shortage in trades, including the cleaning and restoration industries. And because of that, I think there's a lot of policymakers that are trying to figure out how we can get more and more people to get into those trades, to get into those businesses. And so this is one of those avenues that they believe can be of assistance. In 2017, the first Trump administration had passed its sweeping tax reform. That expires this year. So all the taxes that you're currently paying or not paying are currently under Trump's first tenure. And so now this year, Congress's main focus, outside of not shutting down on March 13th, is going to be tax-related issues. And so the 529 savings plan is under that guise. So basically, this is our Super Bowl for that bill. If that bill doesn't get into this large omnibus bill, it will probably not succeed. And so we are working with a large coalition of about 800 plus different organizations. We are a integral stakeholder on their steering committee. There's like 10 of them, and we're one of them. And so we're really going to be promoting that. Me and Holly are going to be going to DC at March 25th and 26th with ASAE to promote that bill, as well as we're going to be working with ISSA like 4 days later to do the same thing. So, but that's a bill at the federal level that we're really working on and trying to promote. And then there's another bill that's also under the tax-related issues called the Ready Accounts Act. And the Ready Accounts Act, basically, we have here in America the HSAs, so your health savings accounts, which allow you to put money into a tax-free account, and you can use those for health-related expenses that aren't covered by insurance. This would do the same thing for disaster recovery and disaster mitigation. So you can put $4,000 into this tax savings plan, and if you have a $50,000 bill or a $50,000 invoice from your restoration company, and insurance only covers $46,000 of it, you can use that $4,000 to pay that tax-free. So those are just some bills that are happening at the federal level that I think are relevant to us and then to what we do in the cleaning and restoration industry. And then the state levels, things at the state level are a little bit less interesting in the news, but we can get things done a lot quicker. For instance, you guys may be aware in Virginia last year we passed a bill that requires mold remediators to have an IICRC certification. That bill was amended this year and it's not been signed as of about 15 minutes ago, but it did pass unanimously through the legislature, which would expand those certifications not just to IICRC but others, but it also requires that folks have to perform mold remediation in accordance with either the EPA's guidelines or the IICRC's S520. And that was not how it was going to be. The original bill basically said that they would have a state certification, and the language basically said that whether or not you performed mold remediation and been a certified professional here at the IICRC or Normie or whomever for the last 25 years, you could not legally call yourself a certified professional unless you had the state's voluntary certification. And I thought we thought that would probably screw over a lot of folks, because the people that you guys are training are going out there and saying, hey, I'm a certified professional, but in Virginia it would have been illegal to unless they went out and got this voluntary certification. That is not vetted, has not gone through any processes, and was created by some folks some bureaucrats, to be fair. But we were able to, I met with the legislature, met with all the stakeholders involved, and we got that amended to ensure that industry certifications were still the thing that they were going to look to, but also that the standards are going to be followed. And so we're kind of working in all various states on a lot of its mold issues, just because I'll tell you this, every single politician has a tenant that's called and said their landlord hasn't remediated mold. But I've also run into a lot of politicians who have had mold remediated in their home, and some of them have had very bad experiences with restoration contractors, and so they're like, well, we want some form of regulation on them. And so I have to inform them of the IICRC certifications, I have to inform them on the S520 standard, the S500, but we've also had conversations in the trauma and crime scene cleanup area. And there's a bill right now in Montana that basically looks to certify folks for the cleanup of methamphetamine and fentanyl. And I can tell you right now, anything dealing with fentanyl and politics, they want to solve. If that word is used, they'll do anything to fix it. And so we just found out yesterday that the IICRC S900 committee is pretty much complete with their standard, and they're looking to get that out. And I was able to get the bill amended so that it says that they will adopt industry standards, or not necessarily industry standards, but will adopt standards for the cleanup of fentanyl and methamphetamine, which they would be kind of dumb not to just choose the one that's already done, as opposed to creating their own. So that's kind of what we're working on there, and I sent off another email yesterday in the middle of all this to Connecticut. They actually want to license any and all fire restoration, or any and all restoration contractors. It doesn't matter, they're talking about having a lot of bad actors, they're talking about having fights in the streets over fire claims, and they really want to stop those fights from happening. So I reached out to them, with the legislator, and I said, hey, the license is really all it does is you just got to pay $150 and you're done. That's all you do. So there's nothing stopping those bad actors from going in there and just paying their $150 and continuing to fight in the street. So I had to introduce them to IICRC certifications. All of our standards ask for some amendments in that bill, and hoping that they will adopt those certifications and those standards to at least hold those folks to a higher standard, and we can hopefully mitigate any sort of fights in the streets in Connecticut and elsewhere.
Take your right hand, reach over your chest to your shoulder, and pat yourselves on the back. What you do is so impactful, so important, right? Not just to you or your organizations, right? Not just to the IICRC, but every single client that you help and support. At Dale Carnegie, we call our instructors the keepers of the flame. That's how important we view that role. So congratulations, I'm excited to be here with you again this year. I was telling someone a little bit earlier, last year I had 45 minutes after lunch. I must have done okay that I got moved to earlier in the day. So thank you so much. In our time together today, we're going to look at and really understand the importance of engagement and what that impact can be. We're going to explore some proven engagement strategies. You're going to leave with a list of tools you can pick and choose from to try in your next engagements. You're going to apply, we're going to have a little bit of simulation work. We're going to have you apply some of those tools to your existing IICRC content. And then we want each of you to think about what are you going to put into action, right? We know what happens. Sounds like you've had a busy week already so far this week. It's not yet over. You go back to the reality, right? And it just all kind of goes. So we're going to ask you to make just a little commitment to bring these things to life. I'm ready to head off to my first class, right? Let me get all these books here. Oh my gosh, they're slipping, they're falling. I'm heading off and I'm going to become a certified instructor. I'm so excited. A lot of things can happen, right, when you go into that training room, right? Our best laid plans cannot work, right? And you have all different kinds of students in those classrooms. So just real quick here, let's brainstorm. What are some of those worst training experiences that can go wrong? Yes?
Student lighting his shoe on fire in the classroom.
Oh my gosh, I put that at the top. What else do we have?
Swear to God.
Yes?
Students show up drunk or on drugs.
Oh my goodness, okay. Let's get a few more, yes?
That's a heart attack in the class.
Oh my goodness, a heart attack.
But they act like they're dead.
They act like
They
they're
are not engaging. You ask questions, you don't get a response, they just look at you or don't even look at you, they ignore you.
right. Hopefully a little more common than the others that we heard before this, but yes.
A student that wants to prove that you know nothing about what you're teaching.
Right? They already know everything.
I had a student take virtually from a deer stand, and he passed.
Wow! Did he get a deer that day?
I don't know, I didn't.
Okay. Yes. Oh my gosh. Do you know here in Las Vegas we have hydration stations that you can bring in if you're concerned about how much partying went on the night before? Sad but true. All right, I think we've made a pretty good list there. A lot can go wrong, right? So how many of you have been instructors for anybody 2 years or less? No. All right. Oh, yes. A few of you. All right. How about 5 years? Okay. 10. 20 years. All right. Somebody already told me they had 30. Who has 30 years or more? Stand up. Let's give them a round of applause. Has a lot changed in 30 years? Yeah. Some things have, right? Certainly the technology The standards, I think I learned a little bit more about that just in the first 20 minutes of our meeting here today. The standards are changing, the expectations are changing, and certainly the behaviors of the people that are in our classrooms, right? It's generational, it's evolutional, it just happens. It's no longer enough for us just to expect people to pay attention. Remember, that's what it used to be. You know, people showed up, they paid for a class, they wanted to do it. Most times, nobody dragged them in to do it. We expected them to pay attention. It's not enough anymore, right? Now it's all about engagement, right? And that's the buzzword. And there truly is a science behind that, right? Without engagement, you don't have that retention, that application skill, and those things that you need to go back. So when students are actively involved, they retain better, right? They can apply those skills. They have more confidence as they return out to the workplace. They have a deeper understanding. What you see on the screen here is the result of an ATD study. Are you familiar with that? Association of Talent Development. They've been around for a very long time. They support learning and do studies of learning and instruction of all types. So this example shows us the learning retention based on the models. And we can make sure that we get all these slides to you as well. So, retention from lectures, 5%. That's scary. Like you said, they might pass, right? They remembered it for that moment, but once they walk out, come down off the deer stand, 5%. If they read it themselves, 10% retention. Demonstrations gets a little bit better, right? Now we're starting to talk about engaging those other senses, that other types of learning, right? Those visual learners, right? 30%. Group discussions, now we're getting somewhere. 50%. All the time that you take, 50%. Hands down, hands-on experience wins the day, right? 75% retention. To expect them to walk away with 100% is unrealistic, but we want to get there as far as we can. So not all training goes great. We talked a little bit about that. Let's talk about some of the common pitfalls that we see in training today. Do we need to try things different? Last year when I was here, I had a couple of people share that you did 8-hour-long virtual online training.
Test scores went down.
Yeah, okay. I'm not surprised. If you didn't hear what he said test scores went down a little bit with that one. I did have to pause a moment when I heard that last year, right? So I challenged you to think about how you could change that. You know, it's tough on you as an instructor, right? And think about them trying to absorb it all, hearing all that language and jargon for the first time. And then the big one, based on what we just saw, right, is lack of interaction. Not getting them involved. This morning at the breakfast table, I met Tom the tool man. Where are you, Tom?
Over here.
There he is! I might mention you again. So Tom showed me pictures of his classroom, right? He's got the tools there. It made me sad. I was going to bring some equipment up here just to have some fun, right? He showed me. He brings the tools, the toys in so people can engage. When our hands are busy, right? You don't need to know the science, just understand the concept. When our hands are busy, we're more fully engaged, right? The brain is going to be more engaged, right? You're tapping into those multiple senses, right? So those are the things that can go wrong. Agree? Who would add anything? First one to add something? What's a common pitfall?
Big ego.
Pardon me?
Over ego.
Over ego. Yes. I heard over here. Monotone lecturing. Absolutely.
Reading from slides.
Reading from slides. Yeah. Have some notes, right? I got a couple notes here, right? I had a lot of things I want to make sure I share. So I got a couple of notes, not word for word, I'm not reading it to you, right? Yes,
Not knowing who you're talking to, teaching a technician class to a group of marketers or to your owners.
right, know your audience. Why do they need this information? How are they going to use it? Your owner may work in the business. Maybe their office personnel don't, their marketers don't. Depending upon the size of the organization, they could be hands-on out there. You know, they're coming in, they got the galoshes on still, right? Or that might not be their thing, right? So know your audience. Thank you. Any others? Yes?
Too many words on slides.
Too many words on the slides, exactly, right? There's a science to that, right? 6 lines, 6 words. Just make note of that. Try to keep it at that. Yes?
Thinking everybody learns the same.
Yes. Thank you. Wow. Perfect transition. Let's look at how adults learn. Thank you very much for that. All right, adults learn. There's 3 types of adult learning styles. Who can give me one?
Hands on.
Hands-on, right? Kinesthetic. Visual, second, and auditory, all right? Think about how those line up with what we talked about earlier, a couple of slides ago, right? The retention. So even though some people are naturally auditory learners, might naturally be visual, let me read it, the studies show and prove that kinesthetic is the way to go, right? Do a combination. That's what we're talking about here today. Right, Tom? Variety.
Well, I like to get them involved, you know. Most of the people who come to my classes are guys. Guys want to play with the toys.
Yeah.
And I just want to get them involved. If you can get their attention, you can teach them. If they get bored, they start looking at their phones and doing other things, and that's the downfall of the class right there.
Absolutely. You could be strict like my partner, Corey. She just came back in the room. The guys from last week know one of the first things she says, hey, let me help you reduce your stress. Turn off your phone, right, sounds, and turn it over or put it away. It's hard to do for everybody, but yes, they can easily get distracted if they're not being involved, right? We talked about relevance already, make it relevant, right? Talk about the application, right? We've got something coming up that'll bring that home for you in just a minute here. But it's really about the most famous radio station, WIIFM. What's in it for me, right? So even though an individual voluntarily signed up for it, knows they need this, has been sold on the benefits, somebody paid for them to be there, we still have to get them engaged, right? And there's multiple ways to do that. What you're looking at here is what Dale Carnegie calls the cycle of performance change. We basically have developed this trademark profile of how we can effectively teach and people can learn. So if we look over there on the right-hand side at first, it starts with attitude, right? Do they want to be there? Do they need to be there, right? We talk about different types of students that we might have in our class, right? They could be vacationers. Hey, I get to be away from work for a little while. They're sending me to this class, right? All right? And then we have the other learners that are, right, out of there, not happy to be there, all disengaged or all in. They have to have some motivation, right? That's that what's in it for me. What's going to happen if I complete that? What's the benefit to me? Do I get a pay raise when I'm certified, right? Talking to and understanding the benefits. Perhaps you're working with companies and you know you can sell the benefits, but take a few minutes, right, to say, hey, Karen, what brought you here to the class today? Go around the room quick. What's the benefit to you? Everybody hears everybody else's benefits, right? So you want to build that and really get that attitude, that motivation going. The second is what you guys are great at, right? We got all this right here. So we know, we got the knowledge, right? You got the fundamentals, you got the concepts, you got the standards. No doubt you're going to win in that category, right? So we've got the material. Here's where the knowledge drops, right? We saw that, right? The next step is practice, right? The right kind of practice, really helping them to understand it, but with strong coaching. to the style that Tom and others that I've talked to in the past have, bringing those materials in, seeing how they start to grab that equipment, are they holding it the right way, etc., is really going to make a big difference. And then the last step is really that skill. What do we do once they start using that skill? How do we reinforce it? How do we redirect? How do we hold them accountable? Let me give you an example of what this could look like. Anybody here play golf or ever tried golf? No? Some of you? Okay. I don't play golf. I play at golf, right? A couple of times, right? I'm always volunteering to coordinate the golf benefit tours. I'm going to drive the little truck, right? I'm going to sell the mulligans and the tickets and all that. But every once in a while, someone will get me up there to just, come on, it's a fun game, all right? Come and join us, all right? So I know that much about golf. But golf, like many other skills, right, whether it's a sports skill or even a music skill, follows this process, right? I want to go out there. That sounds like fun. My friends are out there playing golf. Talk about getting away and not being distracted. I think I want to try it, right? So my attitude and my desire is there. My knowledge. All right, well, what am I going to do? Well, I'm embarrassed because I don't know much about it. I'm going to watch some YouTube videos. That's what we all do today, right? We're going to go and we're going to watch some YouTube videos. So we're going to watch the videos and I'm going to go, I can do that, right? You hold your hands, adjust your feet, give it a swing, and go out there. Got to be a little careful, I have a ripped rotator up there, so not too big of a swing today. All right, so then I get out there, right? So I'm out there with my foursome. It's just a fun game, best ball, right? Is that what they call it, right? Once in a while, I actually am the one that they play, totally by accident. So I get up there. It's not good, right? So me, I have a sense of humor. I just kind of laugh it off. But my mate that's playing with me says, you want a little help? Can I just give you a couple of things to suggest how to do it a little differently? Sure, I'm game, right? So those golf instructors, what do? They come up behind you, right? And they say, hey, adjust your hands a little bit, right? Hold a little further down, a little further up. Change your swing, don't move your feet. Follow through, look where you want it to go, right? That's that real-time coaching. That applies everywhere. That's what we do in the Dale Carnegie room, right? I know there's a lot of graduates of the High Impact Presentations course here. We've got some new graduates. We've got people, someone, I think over here, told me 20 years ago, took the program in Minnesota, right? You guys are strong believers, and those are skills that are helpful for you, right? So, what they love about the course is that real-time coaching. I'm saying this slightly sarcastically because what happens when we're teaching presentation skills and what real-time coaching looks like is they have some things they want to focus on. You know, perhaps it's purposeful hand movements or other things like that. And our instructor, who's an experienced coach in this, is standing out in the room, and then they interrupt. And they say, oh, stop moving your hands, put them at your sides. Other things like that, that real-time coaching, right? So it's kind of irritating, right? Everyone can know that. Where are my friends, Matt and James? They especially love that real-time coaching. But it does the job, right? Because now you see what it's like. So when I went up there and he adjusted my hands, I wasn't embarrassed, right? I took it, and guess what? My next one was a little better. It wasn't perfect. I'm not a naturally talented golfer, but at least I didn't quite embarrass myself as much after that. So then came the skill. How does this resonate? Are we thinking that this process, whatever you call it, does this align with how your successful instruction has gone? Yeah? What happens when you have the person in the class that doesn't have that first one ready yet, the attitude? Yes?
Well, sometimes people like that, they try to make up for the lack of preparation by drawing attention to themselves.
Yes.
Combative.
Yeah, they can be disruptive, right? They're not all in, right? They don't have a purpose. They don't have that commitment, that motivation to be there yet, right? How about someone that skips the knowledge? They didn't do the work. They didn't do the reading. Hey, but I'm all in on the practice. Let me give you those toys to play with. What happens when they're in the classroom?
They failed the test.
They fail the test. They fail the test. They're not ready. They take a lot more of your time, right? They're not prepared. They haven't done the research and such. And then how about those people that really want to be there, right? They want to be there. They've read the book, but they're petrified to get up there and practice. All right? We know that getting them to practice here in the classroom in a safe place is truly a benefit. We want them to practice here. We want them to get that comfort level and that safe environment where they've got those experienced coaches that are going to be able to help them. So that's the Dale Carnegie cycle of performance change. It's proven, it's a trademark best practice. So I ask you to think about it. It's just a pretty practical concept, and I hope that that would provide some benefit. So how's it going so far? You're tracking with me on what some of the challenges are, kind of that science behind it, and ready to move into some strategies? All right. Water. Water was everywhere. Nearly every home in that neighborhood had been underwater. Jason shows up on the job. Jason is the first restoration specialist to show up. Homeowners are there, emotions are high, right? Other insurance companies are there. It's a busy scene. 2 years prior, if Jason had shown up at that time into that scene, right, he would not have been as comfortable as he is now. He would not have been as confident that he could handle this situation. He had been through the training. He had read the manuals. He had passed the test. But he didn't have that confidence when he first came out of the classroom. Until he met Mike. Mike was an interactive instructor. Mike believed in hands-on. He tried all different kinds of tools and exercises to get his people involved. One stood out to him was where he brought in a case study for a group of them to work on and actually map out exactly how they would do it, what role everyone would play, right? What tools would be needed, what measurements they would use to know that the job had been successful. So now he had a greater confidence. He had so much confidence that he had gone back to the workplace, his boss had noticed, and he had been promoted. And he was now a lead restoration specialist on their team. That's the difference that you all can make. That's the difference between a great trainer who only teaches the facts, right? A great trainer, right, teaches more than the facts. They transform students, right, to think and perform in the real world, to really be prepared for that. It impacts them, their businesses, and their customers for a lifetime. Storytelling is powerful, right? It makes a difference. It captures attention. It paints a picture. It helps people process and really sets the stage for engagement. Storytelling can be intimidating to people. As an instructor, even salespeople, right? It's a great tool in the sales world as well. We focus on that. We talk about that a lot in some of our Dale Carnegie training. We don't just teach it for instruction purposes, we also teach it from the sales perspective as well. But it can be intimidating, but I'm here to tell you that anyone can tell a story, right? You just have to start. You just have to think about all those experiences and draw from real world experiences, okay? I don't know who Jason is, and I really don't know Mike, There might be a couple Jasons and Mikes out here. All right, look, there you go. You thought I was talking about you. Maybe I was. But I have real world experience, so I put some names in there. I shared with the guys a few weeks ago, my son and daughter-in-law, they have 7 kids. They're so excited, they're buying a new house. Yes, 7. They were gonna have 1 more and they had twins, so now they have 7. So they had to, you can cringe, it's a little bit, yeah, cringy sometimes. So they're all excited, had the pressure on, you know how that is. Many of you bought and sold houses, I'm sure. Just imagine 7 kids, 1 that has a wheelchair and some other special medical equipment, etc. Have to sell this house, move into that house, and make sure that there's a little bit of overlap, right? So that they're not just, in a van from one place to the other. The rains, the cold that hit the Northeast and the Midwest hit that week. They did get permission to be in the garages, so the seller was pretty good about that, let them go in the garages. So they were out there a few days before closing, moving some things into the garage. They're like, all right, let's take a look, inside one more time before closing. They walked in the front door. I say if water had been red, it would have been a scene from Carrie. Water was coming down from everywhere. The pipes had burst, 2nd floor bathrooms. This is a historic home, so you know what that brings with it, right? The ceilings had fallen down into the floor. My son's mother-in-law was hysterical. We extracted her from the scene. Called the insurance, right? Luckily, they hadn't closed yet, so it wasn't my son's insurance company yet that had to be called, but the sellers. But that's where I met the restoration specialist. So just a couple of days before I worked with this group here in Las Vegas, I had walked into the house. I saw the big dryers. I saw the calm restoration specialist who was telling everybody, we got this, we got to dry it out, we get the materials out of here, it's going to be okay. So I was able to put that story together because I had some firsthand real experience. So what does storytelling look like? At Dale Carnegie, we talk about the magic formula. We help you tell a story in 2 minutes, right? At the minimum of 2 minutes. Of course, it can be longer. I've shared a couple of stories with you, I think, in the last 5-10 minutes, right? They can be a little longer. It gives you an opportunity to add more color, help you see it, help you see that water coming down, that poor family with those 7 kids, right, that are out there and emotional. And your restoration specialists are going to be out there dealing with the emotions, the human side of it, the technical side of it, the insurance companies, and all of that. But the story can start at a mere 2 minutes, and here are the secrets to those story pieces. First, the incident. Relevant experience. All of you have stories, right? You see things every day. The things that went well, the things that didn't go as well, you have the experience. So think about an experience that will apply. The action, right? Action is going to describe the steps to address the situation. In my first story, the real purpose of that story was Jason had not had the best training experience at first, right? He was not prepared. He knew the technical. He had passed the test, right? But there was a gap there. He didn't have confidence. Whether the gap was in the technical piece, he didn't have a hands-on experience yet. He hadn't touched and played with all the tools in Tom's training room. He didn't have that experience yet, right? Or perhaps it was no one had prepared him for the emotional side. What do you say to the homeowner or business owner that's popping their head in, right? How do you let them understand you've got your business to do? How do you deal with the insurance agents, et cetera, that might be there, right? Truly preparing them for the real world experience. And then you state the benefits, right? So that's kind of your end of the story, is to think about what's the message that we want to give? What's that powerful message, right? So 2 stories that I did. What was the message in the first one about James and when he found his trainer Mike?
He was empowered.
He was empowered. What else? There's multiple messages there.
Confidence.
Confidence. The importance of confidence. Yes? You make a difference. You make the difference. The way you train, the way you prepare them for the real world makes a difference. Okay, so the story about my family, probably a little bit more funny, at least I think it's funny now. My son has the same kind of dry sense of humor, which doesn't always play well with my daughter-in-law, and certainly not the mother-in-law when he was laughing about this. But what are some morals of that story that we could learn? Inspections are important, right? Home inspections, and that had been done and we passed, but that last minute walkthrough before you sign, right, and you totally buy it. So they're still waiting for the job to get done, but yes, that was one of the lessons that could be learned from that story. So what I'd like to do, if I can, because I don't see the clock running here, can I get a time check?
3 to 9.
9, okay, thank you very much. All right, so what we're going to do is let's jump into the next strategy. So the first one, storytelling. Each of you has in front of you some sheets. We gave you we kept it simple. Flapping things around here. Here you go. Hold it up. I guess maybe I don't have one of the worksheets. Yep, the green on the top, there you go. All right, so storytelling. You got a little space there. You can write some notes down about storytelling. Anyone can do it. Start out with a 2-minute story, right? You're driving to a job. You're going home. You're practicing with other people on your team. You're talking to other trainers, right? Just, hey, what's a story? Tell me something that happened, but keep it succinct. You can always add the additional color to the story later. But we want you to start with being able to say, what's the incident? Where was it? How did it happen? Right? Then what is the action that was taken? Right? In the first story, the action that was taken is Jason had a better trainer, right? And the trainers, if you were looking at the story from the trainer's perspective, that trainer knew that hands-on experiential experiences are going to be more impactful and the learning transfer is going to be greater. And then always share the benefit. What's the benefit, right? The benefit to you and your organization is that those students are going to be more successful when they go out to the real world. All right? So that's our summary for storytelling. Next up, hands-on learning. Incorporate demonstrations. Give them the toys to play with. You know what? Ladies like the toys to play with too. It's not just the guys. I used to be out there with my dad underneath the hood of the car. I thought that was the best thing, getting that grease under my fingernails. All right, role playing. Do some role playing, right? Some case studies, simulations. That's what Mike, the trainer, did when Jason went to his next training class. He used some case studies. I got one more clip. There you go. Now you can take the picture. All right, the case studies, right? Simulations, right? Making it come alive. Bring the equipment in, let them play with it. That's our hands-on learning. Next, interactive techniques. This is kind of what we talked about last year, right? So last year we stayed focused on virtual. You know, it had become a part of the way you had to do business, the training that you did. I heard today in the elevator coming up here, someone that had done mixed, right? So mixed mode training. First day was virtual, and then they met in person with the class for a couple of days of training. So think about this. The interactive techniques are especially important in virtual training, right? Discussions, pairs, groups, triads, all right? Very, very important. Let them break up and do some discussion. You're going to have the opportunity to do that in just a little bit. Polls and surveys, right? There's all kinds of technology out there for free. Throw up some type of a poll. How many of you agree with this, right? Sort these fibers in some order that makes sense. I'm starting to get outside of my scope of knowledge here, right? Which tool would you use for this situation? This one or this one? Ooh, everybody votes, right? We see where everybody's at. Make it fun. Movement-based. Get everybody up. When they're on video, they can get up too. You can stand up, right? Some of us have more energy when we're standing up, right? pull your desk up. You don't have one of those fancy desks? Just stack some stuff. Grab those manuals. Stack those manuals up. Put your monitor on top of there, right? So stand something up. I'm known to like take boxes, and it's cheap. You don't have to buy anything special to do that, all right? But movement-based. Have everybody, I'm going to group in this corner, group in that corner over there. Talk about it, come back and tell us what you think. Just quick, easy, keep them moving. It makes a big difference. For those people that are falling asleep, or goodness, if they have a hangover or whatever, get them moving, drinking some water, and you're good to go. And then this concept of gamification, okay? That's what we were talking about a little bit. It's the tools, it's the tricks, it's the software that you can play with, right? Practice yourself a little bit at first before you get it. There's tons out there that are at no cost to you. How many of us here in the room have used some sort of surveys or gamification already in our training? Fantastic. Did it make a difference? Was it a little hard and intimidating the first time that it was going to go wrong? Maybe. Practice. I still have that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this, right? And what happens? I tell the students, we're trying this for the first time, this software, let's see how it works, right? Just be authentic, be yourself. That wins points every time. All right, movement-based. Are we doing that in the classrooms today? Get them up? Maybe not? All right, try it. Even try it virtually, right? Have everybody stand up in their little boxes. Have them stand up, stretch, model how they might hold something. You know, perhaps you tell them ahead of time, bring this piece of equipment or be in a place on your phone where you can access this equipment. We want to help you. Remember the coach, right? I want to help you with how we're going to put the hands on that golf club. Yes?
Movement-based. I notice you move a lot, you know.
Too much? I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
No, is that, actually, I think that's also one part of the engagement versus being more static.
Yeah.
What does
Dale Carnegie?
What do they say about that? Like dynamic teaching styles, like hand movements?
Absolutely. That's what this.
Holding up?
Yeah, that's what this whole section's about. So let me go through this and I'll revisit it. But absolutely, movement, purposeful. This is a big room. It's a long room, right? I want to let my friends over here know that I see you and I'm talking to you, as well as my student from a couple of weeks ago right there, the folks here. I recognize you from last year, and the folks over here, right? So I do have to walk a little more because it is such a big room. But at a minimum, you want to be making that eye contact. I don't remember what order I have. Let me see what we've got here. Vocal variety and tone, right? We heard from the back of the room early on. We said some of those things that go wrong, right, can be the monotone speaker like this. I'm so happy that you are all here today. And I'm going to talk to you for 90 minutes, just like this. I don't think I could even do that, mind you, because that's not my natural. But yeah, vocal variety, right? And vocal variety is speed, right? I do tend to be a fast talker, so when I'm getting serious, I slow down. I appreciate your feedback over there, I'm slowing down, right? Or when it's serious, right? You might slow down, lower your tone. So it's a variance in your natural vocal tone and variety. Here we go, this one's for you. Body language and movement. 1, congruency, right? You want to make sure that your face, your tone matches the message. Hey, it was a real disaster, the place fell apart. Right? Is she serious? Am I going to trust her to come and take care of my home? Or does it match, say, it's pretty much of a disaster, but trust me, we've got the right tools, the right processes, this is what we do, right? So difference there, right? And then the movement. So purposeful, we don't want to distract. That's why I asked you if it was distracting you, right? I know, right? I self-coach myself, right? You're moving too much, or the hand movement's intentional. It's okay to have your hands down at your side. For some people, that is so hard, right? And so when we always help people by doing kind of the extreme, glue those hands down, make you stand there for a minute. And then their whole body doesn't move, right? And then I have to remind them, these parts move independently, right? So I can stand here with my arms at my side and I can move my head and make eye contact with different people around the room, okay? So body movement, we got it? Yes,
You're moving around, just supposing for the moment
yes,
that this is a virtual class.
yes.
How close are you with the camera?
Oh, absolutely. So I vary it. So when I am first meeting them and welcoming them, I am probably from mid-chest and up. Because I want to make that eye contact. I want them to see my facial expression, right? Congratulations for being here, right? I want to create that trust and that connection. Now, I will step back when I'm using props, when I want to make another point, right? I might even step back if I see they're getting a little squirrely, right? Or maybe it's a boring topic that I'm covering because I know my movement, if done right, doesn't go to the distraction extreme, I know it can kind of re-engage the other senses too. Yeah, so I'll vary it, definitely. Sometimes I keep a lot of books behind me, right? Some of my favorite, business books or whatever. For you guys, it might be tools, right? You might have a sample tool back there or whatever. Let them see you. Like, spin around, pick it up, come back in camera, right? Just don't be going in and out all the time, but for something intentional. Thanks for that question. The power of pauses, right? Our minds have to catch up. If you've got a speaker, I speak a little fast, right? You've been covering a lot of content. You've said something very important, right? You want them to process it, right? So pauses can be when you've given them information overload and they have to process. Pauses can be for serious effect. It could be to let something funny you say land, right? And kind of gauge it a little bit, right? So the power of pauses. Some of us connect all of our sentences together. And they just keep talking like this, like there's no period at the end of the sentence, and they just keep going because I have a lot to cover and I just want to get it all out there. Whew, aren't you exhausted, right? So just start with every period as a pause. And like half a second is going to seem like a long time, but you'll perceive a half a second. So the power of pauses. So keep that one in mind and write that one down. And then using humor and enthusiasm, right? I will say, here's the disclaimer from Dale Carnegie and IICRC, appropriate humor. Use appropriate humor. This might go back to knowing your audience, which someone mentioned earlier, right? Appropriate humor, right? I kind of work it in a little naturally, right? I think there's safe things we can all kind of laugh about a little bit, the water running down from the second floor 3 days before closing. They did have a home to move into, by the way, so they aren't homeless. They are safe and sound. Thank goodness I still had a second home in Wisconsin, and they've all moved in. And enthusiasm. Be excited about your topic, right? We've got trainers here that have been doing it for 30 years. Who's been doing it for 30 years and is still enthusiastic? Raise your hand. Awesome. Thank you. I caught your enthusiasm when you welcomed us all. Really appreciate that. Absolutely. Right? Guess what? If you're not enthusiastic, it's time to think about, is it time for retirement? I don't want you all to quit, but, right? Be enthusiastic, right? Show your passion. It is contagious. Absolutely show your passion. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a little interaction. Do not all leave the room. I know how it is, right? This happens on virtually too. So when you get ready to do a virtual, right, you say, we're going to do a little breakout, we're going to put you into some rooms. It's okay to go ahead and say, this isn't the time to leave, right? We're all gonna practice, trust me, it's a safe environment. Practicing here saves you and better equips you for being out in the real world. Sometimes you have to remind people when breaks are. Break comes after me, so you will get a break in a few minutes, and you can actually stand up when we do this group activity. So here is what we're going to do. I really want you to think about how you can use some of this, okay? I know what it's like to invest time away from your business and to be here, and you're required to come to this meeting. I'm starting to learn, right, the tricks here. So I want you to get value out of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide into some groups. We're probably going to have some tables kind of turn around and face each other there. And I want you to think about actual IICRC content, a lesson that's really dry, okay? One of your tough ones. Because what's going to happen is your group is going to brainstorm on 2 of these tips we've talked about that you could try. It might be you. You might say, you know what, I have a hard time delivering this content. Maybe the content, it's not the content, it's me, which is okay. It's a safe environment. We're all here to help each other be better, right? So you might say, okay, what can I do differently? Or you might say, what can I do differently with the content, okay? So 2 ideas. There's a spot on your sheet for you to practice that. Thank you for getting the time up there for me. I appreciate you turning it on so I can see where I'm at. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you 20 minutes to talk about that, because I really want you to come together. You'll get to stretch, you'll get to stand up. We're going to come back. We're just going to share a few of the ideas so somebody can pick up on something that you didn't think of, right? Then we've got just a little bit more content to go through before we wrap things up. So who has the first question on what we're going to do? Yes, ma'am.
How many people in a group?
This is a big room. I think we're going to take like 2 tables, so that's about 8 to 10 in each group. Okay? So you can kind of turn around and grab the people behind you. So we've got a couple of tables here, a couple of tables there, more here. So each row is going to have 2 to 3 groups. Thank you for that question. Who has the next question before we break up? Break up. All right, this is it, right? You're gonna model what you'd like your students to do, right? Is to participate in this activity. So here we go. We're gonna give ourselves 20 minutes. With me today is Corey. She's gonna walk around and answer any questions as well. I see Jen snuck in the back of the room. She's another one. She's doing the same thing you guys are. She's going through certification to be one of those keepers of the flame at Dale Carnegie. So she'll help walk around too. So you're just looking for content, you're generating a couple ideas, you're writing it down, okay? Let's go ahead and get started.